Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Manic Moon, and today this is my very first how-to video for you guys where I'll be showing you how to install the RAM X-Grip stem mount. So there are multiple mounts that RAM have. They have suction cup mounts, handlebar grip mounts, and then of course a stem mount. I'll be installing my stem mount onto my GSX-R750, but just before I get into that, I do want to let you guys know that depending where you actually purchase your X-Grips from, they may come as two separate components. You might have to purchase them that way. So your X-Grip and then your actual stem mount may be two separate items. I was, after a lot of looking on the interwebs, able to find on Amazon that there was a complete kit with the X-Grip, the stem mount, plus some glue for to keep the little arms on, because apparently they can tend to pop off depending on how you actually remove your phone from the mount. It also has the sling at the back, which helps secure your phone to the mount, just for added security. For now, let's head on over and get this show on the road. So as you can see guys, this is my steering column, and this right here is the point that I was mentioning that the stem mount is actually going to be mounted into. So this is the hole in the steering column shaft, or triple tree, and this is the component that we'll be using to measure the diameter of this stem. And depending on the actual width of your stem will depend which way around that this component actually goes. So if you have a larger hole than this, then you're probably using the wider side, but as this is only a small diameter hole, we will be using the smaller, thinner side. So basically that just goes straight in, making sure it's firm, pushing it straight down, and we will be marking around the edge of this stem plug to figure out the diameter of the hole to make sure that this is actually mounted in firmly. So I've got that firmly in place now. I'm just going to be using a pencil to mark around the very base of the stem plug that's actually visible, to give it a more accurate measurement. So I'm just going to do a line around as best I can. I am drawing on my bike, that's fine, I'm not too worried, it's just pencil. Now I have read in a lot of places, and as you should by normal ruling, measure 3 times, cut once. So I'm going to measure this up another 3 times before I do any form of cutting, just to make sure that it is accurate. So the way that I measured that 3 times was just by putting it in, drawing around the diameter of the plug, pulling it out, and just doing that 3 times. So the line I'm actually going to be using, if you can see, it's the darker one that's sitting closer to the top of where my hand is. So that is the line that I will be cutting on to make sure that it's actually going to have a snug fit. Now, as you can see, I've got my components laid out on this table. So once we've got our measurements on our stem plug, that's where we have to actually start cutting. So you're going to be making 2 cuts on this, but first we'll cut what they consider to be the top section off the stem plug, which is where we made this line. So this whole section right here, that'll be the top of the stem plug. So I'm just going to cut along this line. It says to use a box cutter or a really sharp knife. I've got my benchmark blade here, and I'm just going to cut that. So now we are left with this bottom section of the stem plug. So the top section was this bit that we've removed. Now we have to cut off the bottom section. So what we're actually going to be using to put inside the stem hole is a middle section. So now we have to measure 1 inch exactly down from where we made that top cut. So I'm just going to measure that up and draw a line around where 1 inch is. That's why I have this body tape measure. You can use a normal tape measure or even a ruler, whichever you have handy. But I'm just going to quickly go make this line, and I will be back. As you can see, this is the part that I'm left over with once we've removed the top and tail of the stem plug, and this is the component that's going to be used to mount the X-Grip onto the motorcycle in the stem hole. So once we've gotten this down to cut down to the size, we can start putting together the X mount. I did rotate the ball joints around in order to get them in a position that I can easily use. Eventually it will end up sitting something like this in order to sit inside of the stem hole, but for now, because we need to access this area, I'm just going to lock it into place at this point. Now, in order from this next stage, we need to choose the corresponding washer and nut in order for this to be snugly fit into the stem hole. So for me, I'm going to be using the 4th size down in the washer, which is just smaller than the top diameter of the stem plug. And as for the nut, I'm going to be using the 2nd smallest size because that is the diameter that fits quite firmly around the base of the stem plug. Now what you want to do is make sure when you install it, the teeth are facing the stem plug, because as we tighten the bolt, it will put pressure onto the rubber stem plug, which will then cause the stem plug to expand and cause a snug fit inside of that stem hole. So while filming this next part, I actually realized that they didn't give me the Allen key for my screw, so I quickly had to run off and go get one. But now that I have that, we can finally start to put this thing together. Firstly, what we're going to do is grab our stem plug, our washer that's corresponding, that's going to go on the wider end of the stem plug, like that. And what we're going to do is put the screw through the hole on the actual mount and line them up with the stem plug and washer. So once that's in place, we're then going to grab our nut with the teeth facing the actual rubber portion, rest it over the edge, and then insert our little gold nut. Now this is actually going to rest where the circular, thinner, smaller bit of the actual nut is actually going to go inside of the grooves, and it's going to line up with the teeth on the other end of the actual nut. So once we've got our components all lined up, we're tightening it just enough that the nut is coming into contact with the rubber stem plug, but not enough that it's actually spreading it as yet, just enough to make sure everything's firm and in place. And then we'll save the tightening of this for when it's actually positioned within the motorcycle in the stem hole. So we'll take it over there now and we will set it up. As you can see, I've got the X grip here. I am going to loosen it and take the ball joints out just to make it a bit easier to put in and line up properly. So we're just going to do that. This has to be positioned so that the ball joint is sitting on that sort of an angle when it goes in. So as you can see, it just sort of sits in and it's kind of raised above. I will just quickly show you. So it's only sitting in about that much at the moment. When it goes into the hole, it needs to go all the way up to this point here. So there can't be any of the stem showing. So we're just going to put that in, make sure it's lined up to the lower point of your triple tree, and then we're just going to push it in as firmly as we can to make sure that it is in line. So once you've got that in place and there's no stem showing, go ahead and tighten it, but make sure you hold on to the ball joint, otherwise you're not going to get much of a tight sort of seal with the screw, especially if the ball joint is traveling with the screw. It's not going to tighten at all. Once that's tightened, we can go ahead and start putting these mounts back on the ball joints. So I'll position these like that and then just give it a tighten. And there we go. And now pop the phone in, or whatever device you're putting in there, and there, perfect. Now I will just quickly say, I do have the extra large mount on this, the extra large universal mount, because I have an iPhone Plus. So if you're going to go with the larger phones, you're definitely going to need the larger universal X grip mount. There are a smaller size for your smaller size phones as well. And yeah, so just make sure you're definitely checking that you're going to get the right grips. As you can see, these are sort of rubbery arms, and that's probably why they gave you the glue. Whether I'll use that or not is another thing. I'll see if I lose any, I guess, and we'll go from there. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is only my second YouTube video, so if you want to get an idea of the type of content that I'm going to be posting, please head on over, check out that super cringy first ever YouTube video, and hopefully I will see you guys next week. Bye!